Hello, welcome to Baltic World. My name is Crispin. Before I launch into the Ukraine update, one of our viewers has reached out. He's opened up his own home to Ukrainian refugees, has people staying with him who have fled the conflict, and he's asked that we do a video promoting the different services that Ukrainian refugees can access, and also how those in the region can donate and provide assistance to those fleeing the conflict. That is a great idea. And at the moment, around 2.8 million people have fled Ukraine to the surrounding countries. And ordinary people from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, Moldova, Hungary, they are reaching out in droves to do everything they can to alleviate this crisis. So Charlene and I will sit down tomorrow. We'll vet all the different charities and services that we can find that are useful and relevant. And then once we've got a useful list, we will provide a video in the next few days. So do stay tuned for that. It's a fantastic idea, and thank you, Gintaris, for that suggestion. Now, since my last update, there's been two notable developments. One is a small, singular, and yet profound act of moral courage, and the other is on the grand strategic chessboard with the United States, Russia, and now China. Now, on the individual act, there's a woman I want to pay tribute to, Marina Ovsyannikova. Until today, she was a newsroom editor for Russia's Channel 1. She stood up in a public act of protest during a live news broadcast, held up a poster, said, "No war, they're lying to you." She pre-recorded a video that described her personal journey, all the acts that she was complicit in promoting government propaganda, and why she was turning against this war and joining the protesters. As soon as that protest went to air, she was immediately arrested. Her whereabouts are unknown. Her status is unclear. We all hope and pray that she is doing okay, and when all this is over, hopefully she will get the due praise and honor she richly deserves. It is impossible to overstate how dangerous it is to go publicly against Putin's regime in Russia, particularly when you're part of that media establishment. She would be seen as a betrayer of the United Russia Party. There is no sense of independent media. People are mouthpieces for government propaganda, and she has publicly gone against that. So a huge and noble act of personal sacrifice. Hopefully it inspires others, that others find it within themselves to be courageous and brave. In her video, she says, "You stand up, they cannot arrest all of us." So hats off. I pray for her well-being, and one day, who knows, we might even get to meet her live in the flesh. One hopes. Anyway, the other development is it's been revealed that Russia has now formally requested that China provide Russia with military aid for its war in Ukraine. This includes ammunition, supplies, technology, heavy armor. If China agrees, and we'll come to that, but if China agrees, this would be the first direct proxy war between the United States and China, where they're both supplying other sides of the conflict, and create a direct fault line in Eastern Europe between the Russia-China bloc on one hand and Europe-United States on the other. China has indicated that it is open to providing this equipment and technology, and may well decide to bankroll and support Russia's war effort. Now, what's revealing is that the Chinese media over the last few days have been laying the groundwork that would allow the Communist Party to do this. In various op-ed pieces, they've said that the United States and China should sit down and cut a deal, saying that no one should be providing military assistance to any party in the Ukrainian conflict, and only provide humanitarian assistance. Basically saying that so long as the United States provides arms and equipment to the Ukrainians so that they might defend themselves, that China should be able to supply and arm and equip the Russian army under Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, this development has rattled the Americans. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in Rome. He's meeting with his counterpart from China. The meeting is going for 4 to 5 hours, and although it was pre-scheduled even before this conflict, Ukraine is dominating the discussion. Not only how China is helping Russia get around sanctions, but now what kinds of military aid that China is contemplating providing to Putin's regime, and what would be the American response. What levers does the United States have to retaliate and sanction China for this act? Now, China is vastly more powerful than Russia, is the true peer competitor in the international system for the United States. If China directly supports Russia, there'll only be limited options that the United States has to stop them, but it will dramatically escalate and universalize this conflict, like I've said. I myself will certainly get more actively involved because Australia and China have not got the best relationship. If China directly involves itself in Ukraine, then certainly people like myself will as well. In terms of the latest war developments, as I said in my last video, Russia is assembling its forces in order to concentrate and besiege Kiev. That said, I'm seeing incredible skepticism at this point that Russia has the strength and ability to actually pull this off. Ukraine has dispersed its forces incredibly effectively. It's turned Kiev into a fortress. There's every indication they're willing to fight street by street to defend the capital. And the attrition is just staggering. At the time of this recording, after just a couple of weeks of fighting, Russia appears to have lost over 10% of its national fighting strength, either through casualties, desertion, running out of fuel, getting lost. Those are terrible losses. Now, of course, Ukraine has been suffering also and is unable to replace a lot of the manpower that it's losing. So this is damaging on both sides. However, it strongly favors the defenders. And unless China provides significant upscaling of direct military aid, it's unclear whether Russia can bring the firepower to bear to really place the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian people under the necessary pressure to force a capitulation. At this stage, my cautious optimism is that Ukraine will win this war. We've already seen, as I said in my last video, the abandonment of Russia's initial war aims. They're not going to quote-unquote denazify the country. They're not going to create regime change. They're not going to have a united Ukraine that is supportive of Russia with a pro-Russian government in the capital. That is simply off the table. Moreover, there's an increasing acknowledgement in Russia's elite circles that this is Vladimir Putin's war. The Russian army might be fighting it, but the vision is Putin's. This is significant for two reasons. First, it increases the possibility of a palace coup. Those that are suffering under sanctions, that want to put Vladimir Putin out to pasture, get back to the negotiating table, find a way to get sanctions relief, withdraw from the conflict, get some domestic support for that. There's an opportunity arising for that, particularly as the war continues to deteriorate. Second, it provides an intriguing wedge for Ukraine and the West to use in negotiating with Russia. Zelensky can put a compromise on the table that the Russian elites can accept, but Vladimir Putin personally cannot, i.e. something that shows Russia to have utterly failed in Ukraine, for the Ukrainians to be able to declare convincingly a total victory, however providing sanctions relief for the Russian elites so that they can restore their wealth, their privileges, their power, and all the blame then falls on Vladimir Putin himself. It creates a momentum for political change within Russia. And at this stage, I think it's more likely we're going to see political change in Russia than we are in Ukraine. And finally for this video, just a note of caution for something that I found increasingly concerning. Until now, Ukraine has dominated the information space, the PR campaign. The whole Western world has rallied to Ukraine, holding them up as valiant defenders of their homeland against unprovoked and illegal aggression. This is entirely fair and accurate. That said, there are things that are happening in the West that could potentially derail this. I'm talking about how some anti-Russia actions are appearing increasingly hysterical and absurd, and this will generate a backlash. For instance, there is a Russian pianist who is known to be anti-Putin, anti-Russian government. He's had his performance in Montreal cancelled because he's Russian. Cardiff has stopped all performances of Rachmaninoff's work because, of course, Rachmaninoff is Russian. The Russian blue breed cat has been barred from certain cat competitions because the cat is Russian. These things are just ridiculous. Things that attack Russian culture, that have nothing to do with politics, absolutely should be off limits. We should acknowledge that there is a difference between Vladimir Putin's actions and the people of Russia, and we shouldn't turn this into an anti-Russia hysterical thing. We saw this with Trump in Washington for 4 years, where people said that Trump was Putin's puppet. He absolutely wasn't. Putin did not put him in the White House, and whatever you think of Trump, this was crazy. So I don't want to go back down this road where anything associated with Russia is wholly taboo, because first of all, you'll make enemies of the Russian people who we want to win over and get on side, but also the people at home that have been deeply skeptical of the media, of government, they're going to have a lot of ammunition if people are doing things that are blatantly crazy. That's my view. I would love to get your thoughts down below. I will do that video on how to support those fleeing the conflict from Ukraine. I'll sit down with Charlene, as I say, tomorrow and nut that out. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.